Thank you, Aaron. This is a wonderful experience, and I'm very happy to be back again and got a lot to share. My name's Alma Wiggins, and I am a member of Mount Calvary Baptist Church in Rockville, Maryland. And that's how I'm involved with all of this because of a kind of a serendipity meeting with Aaron and talking about climate change and all of the things that are happening on on God's green earth.
It wasn't an average meeting. This was not your typical meeting. This was over a crab cake a
Yes,
few
it was
years
over
back.
crab cake, and you owe me one. But we were celebrating the sale of a house as a realtor, and he mentioned this, and I am a retired teacher, and I'm always asking questions. And I asked the question, and this is how I got to where I am right now. How does this work? And does this impact, could this impact the church? And the answer was yes.
Well, let's take people back because some people might not have watched the first video, which
Okay.
they should. So definitely go back and check out Baltimore Climate Tech 2024 and check out Alma's presentation. But we were talking about the Maryland Climate Solutions Now Act, which is the most aggressive climate law in the country. All buildings 35,000 square feet or more, most buildings 35,000 square feet or more need to reduce their greenhouse emissions by, you know, 60% in 2031 and then be net zero by 2040. And of which most building owners and corporate tenants don't know that this law exists. And so Al and I were having a conversation. I think I might have said, "Hey, have you heard about this new law?" And you said,
What law? And he gave me the information, he gave me the website, and I proceeded to investigate and discover. And at the time, Mount Calvary is in Montgomery County, and there are some specific um, laws and guidelines that may be that are unique to the county and are not necessarily in effect in the rest of the state. The county executive, Mark Ehrlich, was very instrumental in implementing that law that went into effect for the state of Maryland. So we have him as a supporter, but we also have those particular guidelines that we have to comply with. And I did a deep dive into the research, and I brought it to um, my pastor, Reverend Bellamy, and said, this is something that is going to impact us now and it's seriously in the future.
Mhm,
At the time, he was a new pastor at our church, and he'd only been there for within a year or two.
mhm,
And I wanted to honor his positions before I went off on the deep end on something, to say this is what is coming down the pike that we will be mandated to do in the future. But it's a long process, and we needed to get started. And he gave me the stamp of approval. And that's when I started the investigation. Initially, we were working on charting out the utilities on a monthly basis, which is it's the benchmarking energy performance standards.
mhm,
The acronym is BEPS,
mhm,
BEPS.
mhm.
And that's how we started. What we have done since April of 2022 is to move forward with the exploration of what this energy project means to Mount Calvary Baptist Church. You can see that we are a large church in Rockville, close to the central part of the city. and that it is the location for a number of activities that are community-based, that's beyond the church activities. We have a large uh, facility where banquets and meetings that are used by the city, by organizations, and weddings and things of that sort that can accommodate a large number of people, as well as meetings that are held by private organizations as well as the cities. Um, the city officials. So our church is a hub for a lot of activities. And with the BEPS program, the benchmarking program, we need to be in compliance with that in the coming years. And we need to have our building in compliance. These things take time. I'm realizing they're taking a lot of time. Is what is important is that our church members understand the impact that it will have on us in terms of what we're able to do. It also has an impact on how we operate efficiently, with clean air, with safe facilities, with up-to-date facilities. And just imagine this location in the center of Rockville.
Mhm.
And if we have, in these current times, if we have a need for a resiliency hub, our property is a prime location. But what I mean by a resiliency hub, I'm thinking of the times that um, the electricity would go out or the communications is somewhat limited. Then we can utilize our facility as a place for the community to come, as a hub for heat, for light, and to be able to charge their phones, store their foods, and provide services can be provided to them from our facility. This is a possibility for something in the future. And this is a part of the research that's going on now to determine what we can do, how we can do it, and uh, what the uh, what the cost is, and what the whole process is. We have been in a work mode for the past 2 years. This is the entrance to the hall. Uh,
And not to cut you off, Alma, but there is the potential of, and I created a rendering for this, but there's a potential of a community solar project
yes,
on site. Can you
yes.
talk a little bit about that and kind of how that might work?
That is, it's very premature at this point.
Hmm.
We are in the planning stages of this, putting together the scope of work and the logistics of all of this,
Hmm.
and what it's going to require for us to be prepared for.
Hmm.
At this point, it is a proposal. And
Okay.
the final analysis will be determined by the church members after we receive the details of the scope of work, the financial obligations, and a number of other things that are going to dictate what it is we do. Because when you're dealing with this kind of program,
Hmm.
there are there are county, there are state, and there are national guidelines when you're dealing with solar, when you're
Right.
dealing with electricity, or
Hmm.
or whatever the requirements are. So,
geothermal or whatever. So yeah, I mean the fact that you've the fact that there's potential even to do like a solar parking canopy and the potential for you know, like EV charging stations and things like that
mhm,
is an exciting
mhm.
project prospect that I'm sure needs to kind of matriculate through the proper approval processes. But
Oh, absolutely,
yeah.
absolutely. And one of the challenges there is that to really understand all the implications of it,
Hmm.
we have had our technical team who has been guiding us wonderfully because this is this is beyond my technical expertise. You know, I am the aggregator. I have pulled people together, and we have, engineers and electricians and all sorts of
Shout out to
experts.
Dr. Anthony Kinslow and Khalid
Absolutely. Yeah.
doing big
Dr.
things. Yeah.
Parker and
Yeah.
just there are about 8 people on the specialty team, I call them,
Hmm.
who
Hmm.
have the expertise. So when a document comes through and it's okay, explain this to me, please. And all of this comes to us as new information.
Hmm.
The challenge is to create a presentation for the members to understand this technical information. We
Right.
have, engineers and experts on as members of the church, but the
Hmm.
collective body needs this in very simple terms to really understand and to understand what this is going to mean to us in the future,
Hmm.
how it's going to impact us in operating in the future.
Hmm.
I'm a
Hmm.
senior. I'm looking at how this is going to benefit the church when my grandchildren, my great grandchildren are in the church and functioning using the systems and the capacities that we have to be able to do the work. Our
Hmm.
our theme now is doing the work,
Yep.
fulfilling the Great Commission.
Hmm.
If we're dealing with a building that is not functioning properly, we can't do the work effectively. So we're getting God's house in order so that we can do what it is that we were put here to do.
Hmm.
This is our sanctuary. We are going into our 123rd year
Wow.
in operation.
Congratulations. Wow.
This building, what you're seeing now, is not, it's not 123 years old,
Hmm. Hmm.
but it has a rich history, and there have been many wonderful things and experiences that have occurred at Mount Calvary, for our members as well as for the community. Um, we
I
are
hope I'm not making you dizzy by spinning like this.
as long as you're not spinning too fast.
Okay. So this is a an awesome view of the sanctuary.
Yeah, and that's
Uh,
from the balcony, and you can see the
mhm,
tech board there where the streaming is
mhm,
recorded
mhm,
and managed.
mhm,
And so we have a seasoned church in the process of being updated with the technology that is necessary for us to operate and to reach out to a broader community through
mhm,
technology. And that is one of the challenges in terms of a structure of a building that started out before the whole technology subject even was entertained or thought about at that particular
mhm.
time.
Well,
So,
we talked about this in the first video, and again, if you guys haven't gotten a chance to watch last year's presentation, please do.
Uh-huh.
that might fill in some of the gaps. But we talked about kind of where this all started. Well, we know it started with a crab cake. That was number one. And then the next step was to come in and do create a 3D tour, a digital twin of the site. And we wanted to do a few things. We wanted to kind of have a visual where engineers and contractors could take measurements and be able to give price quotes on the retrofit of the property. But we also wanted to do a gross square footage verification, because I think public record was right around 32,000 square feet. But then when we created the digital twin, we realized that it was 38,000
Eight,
square feet and
thirty-eight
change.
thousand one hundred and 12.
Yeah, which I said earlier, the Maryland Climate Solutions now Act says buildings 35,000 square feet or more need to, undergo a retrofit. Montgomery County, it's 25,000 square feet or more.
Yes,
So you already knew that you were in the crosshairs of the Montgomery County Building Energy Performance Standard, which was one of the first in the country actually that started in, I believe, 2016. So Montgomery County has been, very innovative and forward thinking in that regard. But the Maryland Climate Solutions Now Act started in 2022, and it's had some iterations to it since then. But one of the things was doing the square footage verification, which we did. And then the other thing was to do the indoor air quality monitoring. And so we did an indoor air quality kind of pilot benchmark, just to find out what the air quality was like in the church. And do you want to talk a little bit about that and kind of why we did it and what some of the conclusions were?
absolutely. It was fascinating for me because you had the monitoring on your phone, and then I got information on a daily basis and looking at there were monitors set up in three locations: in
Hmm.
the sanctuary, in the main office, the business office, and then downstairs in the lower auditorium, which was a smaller, where smaller activities occur.
Hmm.
And then putting that on my phone, you were able to monitor and tell what was going on, um, in terms of the air quality on your phone based on the time of day, based on the day,
Hmm.
and uh, the building is in three sections, and each one was built in the original building was built in the 50s. The educational building was done in the 80s, and the Family Life Center was done in the 90s. So you have three buildings merged to one, but three different systems that need to be jerry-rigged and talk to one another and work,
Hmm.
um, for the comfort of the members in all parts of the building.
And you've got a full commercial grade kitchen as well.
And the commercial grade kitchen, which
Hmm.
is a whole other energy kind
Hmm.
of thing,
Hmm.
because there's a walk-in refrigerator freezer. We
Hmm.
have the commercial kitchen
Hmm.
that's used when we have events, very
Hmm.
good ones too, good
Hmm.
food.
Hmm.
However, it does require some specs
Hmm.
that are above and beyond some of the maybe the smaller churches that don't have a
Hmm.
commercial kitchen.
Hmm.
We have to be compliant with all of the equipment and the serve safe certifications and so forth that
Mhm,
go on in
mhm,
there. So
mhm,
it does require um, special skill, special handling, and a team of people that work very efficiently in doing that.
mhm.
All of that requires meeting certifications,
Right.
and those certifications are important.
Mhm,
And the county has the certifications. The city has certifications, and based on the numbers that we have now, we've got to be compliant to the state of Maryland based on the size and based on the functions. The BEPS program, the benchmarking, has to do with the health and safety of all people, employees, excuse me, employees and guests that come in and use our building. And that connects with what is called the Energy Star rating. And our rating is not really great right now.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole idea of the grants that are available to us is for us to fix our building, upgrade, repair, replace the equipment and systems that need to be upgraded in order for us to be compliant.
Right.
That takes time, that takes money, and that takes the expertise of the engineers and electricians and plumbers and HVAC people.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And coordinating all of that is a monumental task. The important part of that is to bring this information and the process to the members to understand that.
Mm-hmm.
And that has been a challenge because it is very technical. And
Mm-hmm.
initially, they didn't understand it. Like, we've never had to do this before.
Mm-hmm.
No, we didn't. But because of the laws that have been passed, that is what we need to do. And with the our team and Jimcom as the lead for our specialized team, they have been so instrumental in helping us to put things together and to be able to, the picture that you see is Reverend Brooks, who is um, one of our past pastors who was
Mm-hmm.
at Mount Calvary for like 30 years. Then the subsequent pastor that I don't know whether there's a picture there, was Reverend Grant, and he was there for 30 years. So he has um, so Reverend Bellamy has a history of pastors. There he is, Reverend Grant,
Mm-hmm.
of having a very long history at the church. So it's very family oriented. There's a lot of connectivity, and we are seeking to keep that heritage going, but we also have to bring everything up to date to be compliant with the requirements for the county and for the state.
Well,
And
I love what you're doing to really, honor the legacy of Mount Calvary Baptist Church. And I will say that I've been doing some research on plants, specifically plants that help with indoor air quality.
oh my,
Uh,
yes.
and lo and behold, this we didn't plan this, but lo and behold, and whoever placed these plants, maybe they knew, maybe they had the insight, but each one of the plants that you have in here are the ones that are highly recommended for good indoor air quality. And that's probably why when we did our report, the indoor air quality is very good. On the weekends when you have a full congregation or have a lot of people in the building, there's challenges or whatever, and that's why we're doing the retrofit. But during the week, no issues, and I don't know how much of that has contributed to these plants, but I don't know if it was your idea to have these plants, but
No, no, no,
each,
no.
each one of them is directly connected to having good indoor air quality. Like,
I will have to share that with a wonderful gentleman, Deacon Morrison.
Hmm.
who loves plants, and those plants love him.
Yes, I can see. They look nice and healthy.
He takes care of them, and they are just shining. To it's like a respite where you can come and just enjoy the plants, and then with the sunroof there, it they're being fed,
Yeah, yeah.
and um, they're being fed by love, and they're being fed by the spirit
Hmm. Hmm.
and the sunshine. So
There you go.
yeah, yeah.
Well, I definitely wanted to kind of give some flavor and some context to the church. We didn't do so much of that last year during our conversation, but it was nice to for you to kind of give a tour and kind of let people know we talked about kind of where we started. And it's taken time, and these things do take time. Change management takes time, and everything kind of happens in stages and phases. But I think you all are making great progress. um you're not having to fund this on your own. Khalid has been awesome at being able to create some grant funding opportunities for you, which I think is great. To be able to
That going.
have the state and the county kind of the Montgomery County Green Bank has been very instrumental in that. And so can you talk a little bit about kind of how that process has been?
Yes, and that's been exciting. We went through an evaluation initially, and we had to do that because that was part of a requirement that we had to meet certain requirements of research and information
Hmm.
about the building.
Hmm.
And there was a feasibility study done. And the initial one was done by the Jim Com and Khalid, who is our lead there.
Hmm.
And that was funded, excuse me, that was funded by the Green Bank of Montgomery County.
Yeah.
And they have been very supportive. And
Hmm.
from that, uh, from that investigation and many, many, many hours of going through the building, checking lights and wiring and all of the different systems,
Hmm.
and being able to document that. The Green Bank paid for that to be done. And at this point, we have had no funds coming out of our pocket.
Hmm.
And to facilitate the whole process in the manner that we're doing, that we're working on now, is through the source of grants.
Hmm.
And we've had grants that are coming from um, Maryland, the Maryland Energy Administration, out of the governor's office, Governor Moore's office.
Hmm.
And we have applied for a number of grants. And back up just a little bit, the feasibility study and some other utility reports that had to be submitted made us compliant with what is called a phase one and a phase two evaluation.
Hmm.
That phase one and phase two evaluation qualified us to go after any funding support going forward.
And that was the phase one, phase two ASHRAE level audit.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Yep. Yep.
I don't know the technical stuff. I just why we had
That's
to do.
okay.
So that was done, and I read it, and I still need understanding on it. I'm the aggregator, not the
Hmm.
technical person.
Right, right, right.
So as a result of that, we applied for grants, and the first one that we received was the Maryland, the Resilience Grant, which is one that is for planning. It was a
Hmm.
$30,000 grant. That is what is being worked on now. And looking at the data that was collected from the church and looking at what the needs are and that was established in the feasibility study.
Mhm.
So now the planning and setting up the scope of work on what needs to be done, how it needs to be done, and how much it's going to cost. All of that is being done, and I received information that we should have a report by June, which is
Okay. Right. Okay.
uh, because many members have said, well, how much is this going to cost and when is it going to be done? My answer is, I don't know, because the planning and the scoping report is necessary before anything is done.
Hmm.
And as a result of that first grant that we received, we also received two other grants that are, and they're state grants
Hmm.
that are out of MEA's office. And there's one grant, the CINA grant, which is a $205,000 grant.
Wow.
And then there's the solar, which is a $208,000 grant. Now, by no means will that cover all of the cost.
Right.
The whole idea is that with the information that has been submitted in the application process to support our need for these upgrades, these funds are available to us. There's a long range in date for this in 2027 and 2028 in order for
Hmm.
us to do it.
Hmm. Hmm.
The beautiful thing is that that money is now, that $430,000 is on reserve for Mount Calvary Baptist Church so that we can do the planning,
Hmm.
determine how we are going to supplement
Right.
the cost of it,
Hmm.
doing comparisons of scopes of work from the various um, contractors.
Hmm.
So it is a long process. Many members saying, well, when can we get the money? It's like when we finish the planning.
Right.
And, um, and all of that information goes before the church. And that's why it's so important that we get a clear understanding to present to them so that they can understand it, so that we can make a wise choice on what we can do and how we can do it.
Well, pre-development financing or just getting funds to do the pre-development phase is not an easy thing to do. You know, the soft costs, the engineering, the studies, the feasibility studies, the ash rate audits. I mean, those aren't, you know, $3,000 or $4,000. These are five-figure, you know, investments that organizations like the Montgomery Green Bank was nice enough to grant to this. But um, so yeah, there's a lot of energy and effort that goes into just the pre-planning phase. But I'm excited that things are happening in what what some would say probably record time if they hadn't been at our first meeting. But it has, you know, for us it's taken a little bit of time, but I think it's everything's moving in the right direction. You know, this year's conference is you know, our theme is healthy, smart, high performance homes, the case for advancement, you know, affordability and innovation. And some people might be watching, well, what does, you know, a deep energy retrofit of a faith-based organization have to do with healthy, smart, high performance homes? But the reason that we wanted to do this is because I wanted Elma to come back and kind of talk about where Mount Calvary is today, because you know the faith-based organizations are a part of the community, right? And we have a lot of faith-based organizations in Baltimore City that, you know, in Baltimore, we don't have a county or city, you know, ordinance that requires buildings of a certain square footage to comply with building energy performance. You know, there is the state requirement of 35,000 square feet or more, but we've got a lot of faith-based organizations that are less than 35,000 square feet. And so what resources do they have? And so I wanted people to hear from Alma in regards to, this the square footage is the mandate, but I'm sure that just from a resilient sustainability perspective, most faith-based organizations have internal mandates, and there is a pathway to get it done. You've heard Alma explain it last year. You've heard her explain it, the process this year, and there is funding available to be able to do this as well. You don't have to, rely on a bunch of loans. Well, loans it's part of the capital stack, but there is grant funding available to be able to do this type of work. So Alma, I'm happy that we got a chance to at least kind of get an update on where you are. And if we do Baltimore Climate Tech 2026, I want to bring you back to be able to update us as well. Is there anything that maybe you wanted to mention before we close out that you didn't get a chance to?
One of the things, well, two small points,
Hmm.
in terms of the grants, given the times that we're in right now, with we had applied for federal funding last year, and I wanted to push forward to get as many things secured
Yeah. Yeah.
because we don't know how that's going to impact people, and it's really critical that we look forward on how it's impacting individuals, because those individuals come to church
Mm,
and that will impact the churches as well. So long range planning is very important. We are still sourcing additional funds. We still have the opportunity for funding sources coming from the Green Bank of Montgomery County
hmm.
when
Hmm.
we can demonstrate a more specific planning and our scope of work.
Hmm.
They have funds, but we are not privy to that until they know what it is we're doing
Right. Right.
and what we need. So that's still out there. Um, and there's also private funding, and investigating that is
Hmm.
really critical
Right.
because we're applying for a couple of private ones also.
Hmm.
Have
Hmm.
to have people who are willing to commit to doing the research
Right.
and gathering that in and planning long range.
Hmm. Hmm.
Another, the last point is for communications strategies to get the message out to the church members as well as the community. And with my marketing background, saying it once does not get it done.
Yeah.
And so Sunday announcements, handouts, bulletins, visual charts, town hall meetings, Q&A sessions, social media.
Got to touch people 8 times before they get the message, huh?
Yes. And
Maybe more.
as a retired teacher, my love is for young people.
Mm,
So getting the children involved, getting the
yeah.
young people involved, because that's the world that they're going to live in.
And those are the ones that are driving for, greenhouse gas reduction and
Absolutely.
climate change. That's the most aggressive segment, is the youth. So I'm
Yeah,
glad that you're tying
yeah.
them in as well.
And we're emphasizing some of the things like, okay, Earth Day.
Hmm. Hmm.
What is the relationship between us needing oxygen and the plants needing CO2? And
Hmm.
there's a relationship there that is
Hmm.
important, and to
Hmm.
help them understand that as young people,
Hmm.
and having one-on-one conversations with people. So the call to action is continuous. And as you said, you've got to touch people 6 or 8, 10, 12, 14 times to get
Sometimes you lose count, right?
absolutely. I I am persistent, and I will just persevere because I know how important this is. and we need to move forward. And I envision Mount Calvary being a resource for the community.
Well, definitely a leader in this space, for sure. And I think you all share a very unique position to be able to, educate other, houses of worship that might be wanting to pursue something similar, but just not knowing where to start, how to do it. So you you might not have volunteered for that leadership position, but I think you're there and kind of leading the charge in regards to what's possible, for a 123-year-old historic congregation. So I want to congratulate you on that. And if somebody wanted to reach out, if they had questions about kind of how to do what you've done and how to maybe service their community, how do they reach out to you?
Absolutely. They can reach me at Alma, ALMA dot Wiggins, WIGGINS, at mtcbc.org. That's Mount Calvary Baptist Church.
And your email address will magically appear on the screen by the time people watch this on March 1st. So
Okay.
so we'll make sure that we get that out there. Wow, Alma, this has been great. Thank you for your time, your thought leadership on the subject. From where our conversation first started to kind of where you are, dropping the acronyms and everything. You got it. You got it. So thank you for your work that you're doing there.
When we first started, I didn't know, like, what's that? Now I know, and I'm learning, and I want to give a shout out to our professional team,
Yes.
who have been so supportive,
Yes.
and it's been a true blessing. It's
Yes.
been a true blessing, and
Yes.
I thank you for inviting me to have crab cakes as we were
So
celebrating the sale of a house.
it's all good, Alma. It's all about doing the work, right?
Absolutely,
It's all about doing the work.
absolutely.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, and we'll chat soon.
Thank you.
All right. Have a good day.
Take care.